Hey everyone, my name is Jordy Clark. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, I'm a real estate broker here in Utah. And today I wanted to chat about the differences of single family investments versus multifamily investments. If you guys don't know what the difference is, a single family residence is a place where only one family is supposed to live. So it's your stereotypical house. It's not attached to anything. Although it's getting more and more common here that townhouses and condos are more affordable. For these purposes, we're just going to look at investment properties as houses or multifamily, so duplexes, fourplexes, 15-unit apartment complexes, 100-unit apartment complexes. So really splitting them into two categories. So we'll start with single-family residencies. And there's a bunch of reasons why people do both of them. So this is kind of meant to be an informative video so that you can make a decision what's right for you in your investing career. Obviously, the whole goal of this channel is so that I can help you reach financial freedom. And I define financial freedom as you have enough passive income coming in that you don't have to go out and go to work. Now, if you get to that point, the reality is you'll probably keep working anyways. You'll just do what you love or spend time with family, be able to go on, 3-month vacation, and all your bills are paid for. So the whole goal of financial freedom is to get to a place where you're not trapped. You're not having to be somewhere from 9 to 5 or from noon to 8 or whatever your schedule may be. So both assets will get you to where you want to be. They're just a little different routes. Single family residencies, a lot of the pros. This is where most people start, and it's totally okay. I think there's a big misnomer or stigma out there that, you have to go into apartment complexes, and it's just not true. I know people that are financially free. Some of them are my clients, some of them are my friends, but I know people who have met that financial freedom with just single families, with just multifamilies, and I know people that have done it with a mixture. So I'm kind of in the mixture boat. I own both single families and we own multifamily, and we own commercial space, so we own a little bit of everything. In single family residencies, so houses, here's a lot of the upsides and pros. Your tenants will typically stay longer. Your demographic is usually a family. They've got kids, they don't want to interrupt school schedules. They may be coming here for a short time to figure out where they want to live if they're relocating from city to city. And they're not familiar with, what area they want to live in long term. So they may be there a year or two. A lot of times though, they want to be in a house for 3 to 5 years. And that's great because that means less vacancy. A lot of times people who rent houses, they've got pets, they want a yard for the kids or the pets or both. And they just want extra space, right? They don't want to feel like they're stacked on top of each other. They want room to stretch out their arms, or they want an RV pad to park a boat or park a RV because they like the flexibility of traveling and they just don't want the hassles of home ownership. Single family houses are typically easier to buy. And when I say that, I mean there's more of them available. There's just more deals, there's more distress sometimes that comes, and you can add value in different ways with single family houses. They're also easy to sell. So if you wanted to, sell off a house and get a little bit of cash and do something with it or live off of it or whatever the case may be, a single family house is very easy to sell because you typically fix it up and stage it and make it look ready for a homeowner to move in, and people are always buying houses. Just in different times of a real estate cycle, it may be different, but they're typically much easier to sell than a multifamily, 100-unit apartment complex because there's just a bigger buyer pool. A lot of people want their own house. Renters also feel more of a feeling of home ownership when they live in a house. because they feel like, hey, this is mine. You know, I'm not sharing any walls. I don't hear most of the time my neighbors or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of all of, and maybe not all, but most of the big attractive reasons for single family houses. It's a great way to go. The downsides, you have to qualify on your income. You can get 30-year loans, which makes the cash flow great on single family houses, but they do take your income into effect. And right now they currently limit you on how many residential mortgages you can have in your name. I think the cap is about 10 per person. So, you know, if you and your spouse are both strategic, you can accumulate maybe 20 houses. The next downside is if there's a vacancy, you know, if you have a midnight move out, if you have a tenant that doesn't renew their lease and you're not quick enough to be on top of the asset and manage it professionally, you could have a vacancy. And if you have a vacancy for more than a week or 2 or 3 weeks, you are the one that's fully responsible for making that payment because there's only one tenant. So that's a pretty big risk sometimes. The way we found in our portfolio to minimize that risk is we typically always keep people on leases. And we know we have a defined date that both the property owner and the tenant have in mind that, hey, your lease ends this date in the future. And then about 90 days before that, a letter will typically get sent to the tenant and give them 3 options. They can renew, they can go month to month, or they can vacate at the end of their lease. And we typically ask 30 days for them to come back and let us know what they want to do. And then if they say, hey, we're leaving 60 days in advance, you as the property owner know, hey, I'm gonna have a vacancy, I need to fill this, so you can start marketing it for rent. You can find your next tenant and hopefully minimize that vacancy time to 3 or 4 days. Just enough time to get the carpets cleaned, paint touch-ups done, any other repairs that might need to be done to make it ready for the next tenant. So there are ways you can minimize those. There's also no limit to the number of single family houses you can own if you pay cash for everything. So don't think that, you know, you're only limited to 20 houses. That's just 20 mortgages. There's also other more creative ways, which we'll go into, called seller financing, that you can accumulate as many single family houses as you want. So that's kind of the spiel on houses. Small apartment complexes are anything that is 5 units and above. Duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, so structures that have 2 units, 3 units, or 4 units, usually all in one structure. Those kind of all fall under the single family for lending purposes. The benefit to those is you can have multiple tenants. So if you have 4 units, 1 mortgage, and you have a vacancy, the other 3 will probably pretty much make the payment. So you don't have to come out of your own savings or your checking account and make that payment if there's a vacancy. If it's more than 5 units, it actually falls under commercial lending. And so they look less at your income. They still look at it, but they don't do the debt to income ratio and look at all that. They more want to know that the rents are going to cover the payment. So the nice thing is there's no cap as to how many commercial loans that you can get. You could have 200 commercial loans or 1,000 commercial loans. There's just really no limit. There are other factors that they look at to mitigate their risk, but there's no hard and fast limit. So another benefit of the multifamily is you typically have a flexibility on a lease if you're a tenant. So we talked about, single family houses, people stay longer. Sometimes people stay in multiplexes for years and years and years. I know in one of our small apartment complexes, we have a tenant that has been there 21 years. Now we haven't owned it for 21 years, but she's been there through multiple owners. Which is great because she'll probably continue to be there. We'll just give her modest rent increases, make sure everything's fixed, and give her a nice comfortable, warm place to live, and when something's broken, we fix it. Or, you know, you could be there for 6 months if you're a tenant. A lot of apartment complexes allow that flexibility. So with multiple tenants comes some flexibility with multifamily owners, the landlords. The next big benefit to multifamily is you can do bigger deals. So, you know, you can go and buy a 100-unit apartment complex and have economies of scale where you've got one property manager, all 100 units are in the same area. And it gives you a lot of benefits there. Your costs really can come down on the larger multifamilies because it's all in one area. You know, if you get big enough, you can have an on-site manager, you can have an on-site handyman that repairs everything. So, you know, it can really drive your costs down and drive your returns up. You can also bring partners on or be a partner on a multifamily. So I'm invested in a couple large multifamily deals as a passive investor, and it's great. I get a check every month and I don't have to work for it. There's lots of benefits to both. Neither is wrong. There are a couple downsides to multifamily. Typically you have to have a lot more cash down to do it. Now there are ways to do it with less cash or no cash, but starting out, I would say most people start with single family houses, and then after, you know, they get a few under their belt, they can kind of decide which path they want to go, and, you know, maybe do both, maybe do one. There's a lot of different things they can do there. I happen to like both, and so we own both. Really, I hope this helps you on your path to financial independence and financial freedom. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is you have to get started. You can't become financially free if you don't start with that first step. If you don't buy that first house, you know, and you may only look at one house and say, gosh, this only cash flows $200 a month. The reality is I wish I would have kept everything that I bought 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And I wish I would have bought more because prices have gone up, rents have gone up, but my payment would have stayed the same. So I'd be cash flowing more and more over time. Now, again, that's not always true, but most importantly, you just need to start. You need to buy that next property today, that first property. You need to start looking, analyzing deals so that you can get closer to financial independence, because it can happen a lot quicker through real estate than you realize. So with that, guys, please hit the like button, subscribe, share this if you found it valuable, and please comment below on if you like multifamily, if you like single family, and let's have a great discussion. So with that, we'll see you guys later.